She had been alone in the woods for 27 days when she wrote her last words. Not a cry for help. Not a desperate scrawl. A careful, deliberate letter. She addressed it to her husband. She told him exactly what she needed whoever found her to do. She had accepted what was coming. She folded the note, placed it where it could be found, and waited. 2 years passed before anyone read it. 5 hikers. 5 trails. 5 families who waited for answers that took years to arrive. Some of those answers came from other hikers stumbling across something in the wilderness they were not prepared to find. Some came from forestry workers. Some came from a father standing at a trailhead watching searchers carry his son out of a mountain he had never come home from. None of these people vanished without a trace. The traces were there all along. It just took years for anyone to find them. On October 11, 2015, a forester named Kevin Adam was working a contract job in dense woods near the border of Navy and public properties in Maine when he came across something that stopped him. A flattened tent. A green backpack sitting outside it. And through the collapsed fabric, the outline of a human skull with what appeared to be a sleeping bag around it. He later wrote that in that moment 3 possibilities ran through his mind simultaneously. Human body. Animal bones. And if it was a human body, was it Jerry Largay? His doubts evaporated within seconds. He was 99% certain before he had taken another step. Geraldine Largay was 66 years old. A retired Air Force nurse from Brentwood, Tennessee, she had set out in April 2013 to complete something that very few people attempt, a through hike of the entire Appalachian Trail. All 2,168 miles of it, from Harper's Ferry, West Virginia northward through 14 states. Other hikers on the trail knew her by her trail name, Inchworm, which she had earned through her perpetually slow pace. She did not mind. She had already covered more than 1,000 miles by the time she reached Maine. She had not been hiking alone the entire time. Her friend Jane Lee had been with her for much of the journey, but a family emergency forced Jane to leave the trail early. Before she left, Jane expressed serious reservations about Geraldine continuing solo. This was not a general concern about trail safety. Jane had specific, documented reasons to worry. Geraldine had a genuinely poor sense of direction. She had already taken several wrong turns on sections of trail she should have been able to navigate without difficulty. On at least one occasion Jane had returned to find Geraldine wandering and trying to locate someone who could point her back the right way. Jane later admitted she felt that Geraldine was in over her head attempting to complete the rest of the journey alone. She left anyway because her family situation required it. On July 22, 2013, Geraldine was last seen at a lean-to shelter on the Appalachian Trail, talking with 2 women she had encountered there. Her plan for that day was to hike 8.4 miles north. Her husband George was scheduled to meet her at a road crossing to restock her supplies, the arrangement they had maintained throughout her through hike, with George meeting her weekly. She never reached the road crossing. She never saw George again. At some point that afternoon she stepped off the trail to use the restroom in the surrounding woods. She did not find her way back. Her cell phone registered a ping off a local tower that afternoon, placing her in the area, and then the signal went quiet. What followed over the next several hours was a series of text messages that George never received. The first read, "In some trouble. Got off trail to go to bathroom. Now lost. Can you call AMC to see if a trail maintainer can help me? Somewhere north of Woods Road." The message sat in her outbox. She was in a dead zone with no service. She tried to send it 12 more times. The last attempt was logged at 12:25 p.m. The following day she tried again with a new message, "Lost since yesterday. Off trail 3 or 4 miles. Call police for what to do please." That message also failed. She tried once more. It also failed. By the time George realized she was not coming and reported her missing, Geraldine had already been lost for more than a day. The search that followed expanded rapidly. Maine Warden Service, search aircraft, state police, national park rangers, fire departments. Dogs were deployed. Side trails were combed. Heavy rains that week obscured whatever tracks she might have left. The search produced nothing. What the searchers did not know was that Geraldine had already stopped moving. She had set up her tent approximately 2 miles from the Appalachian Trail, in terrain dense enough to make her effectively invisible from the ground and the air. She had food, water, camping supplies, and her journal. And she kept writing in it every day, the way she had kept writing in it every day since the start of her journey. Her entries continued through August 10th. Then there was a gap. The journal resumed on August 18th. That final entry was written 27 days after she had stepped off the trail. It read, "When you find my body, please call my husband George and my daughter Carrie. It will be the greatest kindness for them to know that I am dead and where you found me, no matter how many years from now. Please find it in your heart to mail the contents of this bag to one of them." 2 text messages were deleted from her phone on August 6th, the same date as what investigators identified as her most hopeless journal entry. She had been alone in those woods for 15 days by then. When Kevin Adam reached the campsite and documented what he found, the picture that emerged was of a woman who had used every resource available to her and still could not make herself visible enough to be found. She had built a sleeping area from small trees, pine needles, and dirt to keep her tent off the wet ground. She had tied a space blanket between branches above her camp. Trees near the site showed scorch marks consistent with deliberate fire lighting. She had tried to signal with smoke. Nearby was an open canopy where she could potentially have been spotted from an aircraft had her tent been positioned under it rather than beneath the dense tree cover she had chosen. It was not. The branches overhead made her invisible from above. Among the items found at the site were maps, a rain jacket, a working flashlight, a blue baseball cap, dental floss, and a handmade necklace with a white stone wrapped in string. Her journal was recovered with moss growing across its cover. It was titled, in her own handwriting, "George, please read Zoxo." A Maine warden who compiled the evidence from the scene noted that what Geraldine had left behind was not a survival log. It was a collection of personal letters to her family. The medical examiner ruled her cause of death as exposure. If these cases matter to you, the ones where the answers came too late and the evidence was waiting all along, subscribe now and turn on notifications. Every case on this channel is covered with the same depth and accuracy. Do not miss what comes next. In mid-August 2020, a hiker moving through the Skeleton Gulch area of Rocky Mountain National Park came across human skeletal remains near a field of avalanche debris. The area was remote, high, and largely inaccessible for much of the year. The hiker reported the discovery to park authorities. What followed was the beginning of the end of a search that had been running, in various forms, for 37 years. Rudy Moder was 38 years old when he disappeared. Originally from West Germany, he had been living in Fort Collins, Colorado and was an experienced winter mountaineer with strong knowledge of the trails in the region. On February 13, 1983, he departed the Zimmerman Lake trailhead on Colorado Highway 17 near Cameron Pass, heading out on a 2 to 3 night ski mountaineering trip. His planned route took him over Thunder Pass and into Rocky Mountain National Park. It was the kind of trip he had done before. He was prepared for it. He was due back within 3 days. On February 19, 6 days after he left, his roommate reported him overdue to authorities. The official search began the following morning, February 20th. Conditions immediately complicated the operation. More than a foot of fresh snow had fallen in the Never Summer Mountains on February 19th, covering whatever tracks or trail signs Moder might have left. Search teams from Larimer County Search and Rescue and Rocky Mountain National Park Search and Rescue coordinated the effort. Ground teams moved through the terrain on skis and snowshoes. Aerial operations swept the area from above. An avalanche dog and handler were brought in to work the most technically dangerous sections. The primary search zones were Box Canyon, Skeleton Gulch, and the area around Mount Richthofen. 2 significant finds were made. A food cache belonging to Moder was located at the mouth of Box Canyon. Nearby, a snow cave containing his sleeping bag and additional gear confirmed he had made it that far. Beyond those 2 items, the 4-day intensive search produced nothing. It ended on February 23rd. Further ground and aerial searches continued through the spring and summer of 1983. Periodic searches by park staff and Larimer County Search and Rescue followed in the years and decades after, each coming back empty. The remains found in August 2020 were in the Skeleton Gulch area, within the boundaries of the original 1983 search zone. The investigation that should have followed immediately was delayed. The Cameron Peak Fire and then the East Troublesome Fire closed the area, shifting every available resource toward containment. Snow then covered the site through the winter, sealing it above 11,000 feet. In the summer of 2021, park rangers returned to the location and conducted a more thorough examination. They recovered skis, poles, boots, and personal items consistent with Motors equipment. The FBI Evidence Response Team was brought in to assist with the recovery of remains. The Grant County Coroner's Office attempted to confirm identification through dental records. The results were inconclusive. U.S. officials worked extensively with the German government on repatriation, family notification, and further dental record analysis. After nearly 4 decades, the case was considered closed. This case has one more chapter to write, and we will cover it the moment new information is confirmed. Subscribe now and turn on notifications so you are here when that update comes. When search crews arrived at the Hidden Lake Trailhead in Washington following a missing person report, they found Rachel Lacaduc's car parked exactly where she had left it. That part was expected. What was not there was any indication that she had made it beyond the trailhead. Search teams combing the trail reported no sign that she had reached the lookout cabin that had been her destination. Rachel was 28 years old, from Moses Lake, Washington. On October 17, 2019 she had told her family she was planning an overnight hike on the Hidden Lake Trail to a lookout cabin, a trip she had chosen specifically to celebrate her birthday. What her family did not know at the time was that the weather on the mountain had shifted while she was out. Conditions turned inclement in a way that made getting off the mountain extremely difficult. She was caught in it. Initial search efforts failed to locate her. The terrain was challenging and the weather window that had trapped her also complicated the search. Months passed. Then a year. Then nearly 2. The searches continued. Over the weekend of August 14, 2021 a large volunteer search group that had never stopped looking found her remains on the mountain. The following Monday, her mother Elizabeth Tripp posted to Facebook. She wrote, "Our beloved Rachel's remains arrived off the mountain yesterday." On August 19, 2016, a man from Colville, Utah was camping near Alsop Lake in the Uinta Mountains with his 2 sons when they came across something that did not belong in the wilderness around them. Human remains. A backpack. A tent. The family was not searching for anyone. They were simply camping in a remote area of the Uinta Mountains when the discovery found them. Eric Robinson was 63 years old. An Australian native, he was an experienced outdoorsman who had taken on some of the most demanding terrain in the world, including hiking in the Himalayan mountains. On July 28, 2011 he was dropped off at the Chapeta Lake Trailhead in Utah to begin a solo hike along the 100-mile High Line Trail through the Uinta Mountains. He was scheduled to arrive at Mirror Lake on August 7, 2011. When he did not appear, he was reported missing that same day. The Duchesne County Sheriff's Office deployed a search and rescue team the following morning. The search was unsuccessful. The years passed. 5 of them. When the Colville family reported what they had found near Alsop Lake, Summit County Sheriff's Office investigators responded to the area and recovered human remains along with personal items. The remains were transported to the office of the medical examiner and confirmed to be human. DNA testing was required to formally establish identity. Based on the proximity of the remains to the backpack and tent, investigators believe they belonged to Eric Robinson. Robin Zickel had traveled from California to Oregon to stand at a trailhead and wait. 3 years after his son had walked into the Mount Jefferson wilderness and not come back, searchers were finally bringing Riley out. Robin was there when they did. Riley Zickel was 21 years old. A California hiker with experience on the trails, he had the right equipment and enough food for his trip when he set out on July 30, 2016 from Brightonbush Lake Road at the Pacific Crest Trailhead in Oregon. His plan was straightforward, an overnight hike in the Mount Jefferson Wilderness area, then back out the following day to visit friends in Seattle. He was last seen on the Pacific Crest Trail just north of Jefferson Park, where he stopped to talk with another hiker passing through. After that conversation, he continued on alone. When Riley did not return, his family reported him missing. Marion County deputies located his vehicle at a Jefferson Park trailhead. Search and rescue teams from multiple agencies mobilized immediately and spent 7 days in the field before the search was officially suspended on August 6, 2016. The scale of the operation was significant. More than 340 people contributed approximately 5,000 hours of search time across more than 350 square miles of the Willamette National Forest surrounding Mount Jefferson. Oregon Army National Guard helicopters flew daily from their Salem base. Civil Air Patrol Cessna 182 aircraft covered the area from the air alongside them. Neither found any sign of Riley. The terrain created contradictions that made the search exceptionally difficult, areas of snow on the ground while daytime temperatures occasionally climbed to 90 degrees, with the search zone spanning elevations between 5,000 and 7,500 feet above sea level. 3 years passed. Then a group of climbers in the area contacted the Marion County Sheriff's Office reporting that they believed they had located Riley's body in a glacial area above Jefferson Park on Mount Jefferson itself. Sergeant Jeremy Landers of the Marion County Sheriff's Office later confirmed that Riley had been found within the same 350 square miles that had been searched in 2016. The reason he had not been found earlier came down to the nature of the terrain and how portions of the original search had been conducted from the air. The specific location where he was found would have been extremely difficult to see from above. The recovery presented its own challenges. The glacial terrain above Jefferson Park is steep, with loose rocks and an active risk of rock avalanches. The operation was carried out by Marion County Sheriff's Office Search and Rescue, Corvallis Mountain Rescue, the Civil Air Patrol, and the United States Forest Service working together. They used the coordinates provided by the climbers to conduct an aerial preview of the terrain before sending recovery teams in on foot. Robin Zickel was at the trailhead when searchers brought his son out of the wilderness. Marion County Sheriff Joe Cast issued a formal statement. He said that without the contributions of every organization involved, they would not have been able to bring closure to the Zickel family after 3 long years. If you have followed every case in this documentary and you are not yet subscribed, this is the moment to do it. Hit subscribe and turn on notifications, because the families in these stories deserve to have their names remembered, and this channel will keep telling them. 5 hikers. 5 trails. Years measured not in months but in seasons between the day each one went in and the day they were finally brought out. A snow cave in Box Canyon with a sleeping bag inside it. A car at a Washington trailhead with no footprints beyond it. A moss-covered notebook addressed to a husband who would not read it for 2 years. A backpack and tent found by a family who had simply gone camping. A father standing at an Oregon trailhead watching searchers carry his son home. Most wilderness disappearances are not crimes. They are the result of terrain, weather, and circumstance combining in ways that even experienced people cannot always overcome. What makes these 5 cases stay with you is not the manner in which each person was lost. It is the length of time their family spent waiting for an answer the wilderness was not ready to give. Geraldine Largay wrote down everything she experienced and felt and hoped for. She addressed it to the people she loved. The wilderness kept it for 2 years. Someone found it. Someone read it. That is the only closure this kind of case ever offers, and sometimes, it has to be enough. This has been a documentary investigation into 5 wilderness disappearances across the United States. Every name, date, location, and finding presented here is drawn from verified reporting and official records. To the families of Rudy Moder, Rachel Lakaduck, Geraldine Largay, Eric Robinson, and Riley Zickel, your loved ones are not forgotten. Thanks for watching.